Hey, Mommy, welcome to the Mommy Collective podcast. I'm Paulina Rowe, and this is your space, the No BS All Vibes podcast for ambitious moms who know that motherhood and big dreams go hand in hand. Whether you're killing it in the boardroom, hustling on your side gig, or just trying to get through the day without reheating your coffee for the third time, and yes, girl, we've all been there, this is the place for you. We're here to flip the script on the whole you can't have it all narrative, because spoiler alert, you can. Motherhood doesn't dim your ambition, it actually fuels it. And we're going to talk all about it, the wins, the struggles, and the moments that make you say, damn, I am really doing this. So buckle up, boo. We're diving into real talk, inspiration, and the occasional hot take to keep you fired up and thriving. This is the Mommy Collective. Let's do this.
I get to do this. Leah Higgins, One Lit Mama on TikTok. You are here with me today. How are you?
I'm so great. How are you? Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Of course, Happy New Year. I'm really excited to have you. I mean, we're literally recording on New Year's. So as you can see, a mom's job doesn't stop, but also a content creator's job doesn't stop. So I love it. It's kind of like best of both worlds here. So Leah, I'm so excited to have you here today for a lot of reasons. I love your page. I love your content. I kind of live through you a little bit vicariously just because I've lived in New York for like a summer. And I was a nanny there technically. Like I was nannying. It was Jersey, but like I was also living in New York. And it was for a summer. And I was like, if I get to like be like a wife and a mom one day, I want to like do this in New York. It didn't happen for me that way. I'm a Chicago girl through and through.
You never know.
But I love it.
You never know.
That's true.
I actually went to Chicago for the first time this summer and I loved it. I totally see why people prefer it to New York. It's a very livable city. It was super cool. I liked it a lot.
That makes me so happy. I know I'm like a Chicago like city girl like through and through, and like my husband works for the Chicago Fire Department, so I'm like, oh, probably really can't leave. And then obviously I do radio here and stuff, but I do go to New York a lot, like for work stuff. I'm actually going in January, so I'm excited for some work. So it's fun, you know. It's like my favorite city in the world, besides obviously mine. But and I love to see your content because you're a mom of two, correct?
I
A
have
mama of
2-year-old
two.
and an 8-month-old.
Oh my God. And how the hell are you? How are you doing?
I'm tired. Definitely tired. They're so cute, but they're 18 months apart. And like there's just diapers everywhere. It's a lot, but it's so great. It's fun. They're sweet, and I'm hoping that the age gap or lack thereof will ultimately be a good thing for them and they'll be close as, teenagers and through adulthood. So, we'll see.
Oh, 100%. So it's basically two under three, right? Or is it two under
Yeah,
two, I
we
guess?
started with 2 under 2 and now we're 2 under 3.
Oh
So,
my God. That is, I gotta dive into that as well, because that's a huge question that I think I get like a lot in the mom community, right? It's like,
mhm.
when can, should I have another kid, or should I wait?
Yeah.
Should I not? So I want to dive into that as well. I think it's such an important topic to kind of cover. Obviously, you have firsthand experience.
Yeah.
Before we do that though, do you mind giving us a little bit of a background about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Leah. I live in New York City with my husband. I married my high school sweetheart, excuse me, and our 2 children, as well as our mini Bernedoodle Winnie. I, for the last few years, have been practicing as a lawyer, a litigator specifically in New York. And I recently took a step back and I am doing a bit more writing and content creation and talking about all things motherhood and the intersectionality between working and motherhood and all of the realities of that good stuff. So that's kind of where
Oh
I'm
my
at.
God. That's incredible. That is a lot to we gotta again talk about all that as well. So you obviously were I would say a working mom when you did have your two kids, right? When you had your two
Mm-hmm.
little ones.
Yep.
So I want to know obviously kind of what that experience was like for you, because I don't think it can be easy, but
Yeah.
also what made you decide to step back from working?
Um, yeah, so definitely not easy. It I think no matter how you work as a woman, there's always going to be challenges when you're also a mother. You can never give 100% of yourself to both things at the same time. So sometimes there would be days where it's like, I'm a really great lawyer, but not so great at being a mom or wife. And other days where I was like, I'm a great mom, but I'm kind of not doing everything I need to be doing at work. And that got really challenging. There were so many factors that went into into my ultimately leaving Big Law. But what I will say is that after I came back from maternity leave with my second baby, it did become apparent pretty quickly that maybe this wasn't the right thing for my family. There was a day specifically, I remember my
Mm.
daughter had been hospitalized with croup, my baby. And I was at the doctor with her early in the morning, but the doctor was running late. So I was on my phone pushing back calls and emailing and kind of ignoring what needed to happen with the doctor because I was stressed about work. And then I ran home to try and work and hit a deadline. And then I had to run out to a nursery school tour. And then I worked till like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, maybe this isn't the most manageable. And what I'm trying to figure out is if there is a path for me to have a career and be a mom and have it all be enjoyable and a little more flexible. So that's the goal for 2025. We are working on that.
Oh, I love that. Was it hard to kind of step away from something that you've known, for a long time, right? Like, I mean,
Totally.
and
So
it's hard
hard.
probably to get to where you are, to even become an attorney, a lawyer. Like that's gotta be difficult, the path, and then to
Totally. It
step
was
away.
really, really hard. I think what I've realized is that for so long, my ego was so tied up in the idea of being this attorney and being on this path that I had been on for so long and having that sort of pride in myself for having been a paralegal for 2 years, gotten through law school, gotten this dream job, only to realize that maybe it wasn't the dream and that I was staying because my ego was telling me to stay and because it felt good to say, I'm a lawyer. And I do love being a lawyer. There are parts of it I thought were so interesting and wonderful. I had some great clients and did some really interesting work, but at the same time, it wasn't working. So it's definitely hard.
I'm sure it was, but you know what? I think the reward that you'll be getting from this switch, right, this change, is probably 100 times greater. So I'm sure,
I hope so. It's all
it
pretty
will
new
be.
still.
Oh, I'm sure. And there's no like nothing in life is definite or like permanent. I'm learning that
Right.
too, especially being a mom. You never know where life can take you, right? What if you return? What if you pursue something else? I mean, there's
Totally.
so many ways to go. So I'm proud of you for that. For I mean, even
Thank
to
you.
just admit that, to say like maybe it was an ego thing, right? Maybe it was this. That's why I stayed. And
Hmm.
I think life really is full of seasons, and if motherhood taught me anything, it's that.
Yep,
So
totally.
I,
Couldn't agree more.
you know, I love that. So I mean, that's awesome. And what about your TikTok and content creating? Because I'm sure working full time, being a full time mother, which is two, and then creating content, which is people don't understand. And I even sometimes I don't because I'll post a TikTok and I'm like, ooh, or like an Instagram reel, and I'm exhausted from one
Yep,
video. So now I'm like,
totally.
okay, but people do this like for a living, and they're consistent, and I'm
Yeah.
not. So how is that balance to do all of that?
Um, so at first it was way more difficult. Granted, like I was on maternity leave for a solid chunk of when I started really pushing out content. So I had a bit
Yeah.
more time, babies nap. I learned that with my second baby. My first didn't, but now he does, and my daughter does too. So I had some more time. And I just am not the type of person that can just be focused on being a mom. I'm very open about that. I love my kids, I'm obsessed with them, but I have to have something else going on. I'm just not, I'm overstimulated, but also understimulated at the same time, if that makes sense. So I started
Yes.
doing,
Yes.
so I started doing content creation in part due to a need to be a little bit more productive outside of just being a mom with my kids. And also in part because I was so frustrated. And that is why some of my content honestly doesn't take me that long to make because I just spew whatever it is that I need to say on the internet. And it doesn't take that long because I don't read from a script, I don't craft a script. So it's just whatever is on my mind. Sometimes when I do like product lists, that can take a little bit more time.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time, it kind of goes quickly now. At first, it did not. I had no idea what I was doing. I felt geriatric. I was like, I don't know how to use TikTok. I don't understand. But once I kind of figured it out, now it takes a little less time and it's more manageable.
100%. But I love it. I mean, you're admitting that like you're just using whatever free time you can have as moms. There's really not much.
Exactly.
And it's about balancing. And if you're a new mom listening and you're not there yet, you'll get there because that was me.
Totally. I
You
think that's
know.
one thing that is important to tell new moms. I remember being in the thick of the newborn stage with both kids and being like, am I ever going to have time to do anything for me that's separate from my
Mm,
kids? And the answer is yes. It just doesn't feel like it right now. But yes, you will. The same way you'll be able to leave your house with your kids. When you first have a baby, it feels like you're never going to be able to actually get out the door because by the time you get their stuff on and you pack the diaper bag, something goes wrong and you're back inside again. But eventually you get
oh.
there. You know what I mean? You've had that experience. I think all moms have.
Oh yeah, I think I don't think I've ever shared this. Like my first like moment of even I guess realizing I was a mom. Like don't laugh at me and please like don't come for me, people. But this was like my first moment. Like I already had her. Like we were home. Like she was already
Hmm.
out. Like I'm holding her. So like I'm
Hmm.
very aware I'm a mother. But I was on the phone with my best friend, and we do this thing where we just go to like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and we just like bullshit. Like we just walk around. You know what I mean? We just look
Love
at
that.
stuff. And that was pre-baby, and
Uh
she
huh.
was like 2 weeks old, so I'm like we're not going anywhere. But I just like I was in my fridge grabbing like coffee creamer, and it was like a Saturday morning and like 10 a.m., which is like when I would go do stuff like that, just BS through whatever the aisles of TJ Maxx or whatever, right, Marshalls
Hmm.
and Target. And I started crying, and I was just like, I can't go anymore. I'll never be able to go back. And it's like now me and the baby go to Target every day. But point is, at that moment, I
Totally.
just felt like this shift of like life is different. Things are different. You're right. Like I can't just pack
Yeah.
up and go. Plus, she was like so small. I'm like, we're not going anywhere.
Yep.
You
No, I
know.
remember that feeling so well. I was sitting in the rocking chair holding my son and I just started crying. And candidly, I was like, what the F did I do to my life? This was with my first son. That's literally what went through my head. And I'm so honest about it because I just don't think enough moms are. And then you feel bad, right? You feel the guilt of being upset at that loss of freedom. I don't know, maybe you didn't feel this way, but
Oh, I did.
when I felt like my freedom was restricted, the next feeling I had was guilt about it. And then you feel even worse. And
Yeah.
so maybe if we were all a little more honest with each other about the fact that becoming a mother is hard, maybe we all wouldn't feel so guilty about feeling that way. And that would take some ownership.
100%. Yes, because I felt like honestly like a piece of crap for even admitting certain things, you
Yeah.
know. And what you said and felt, where it's like, what did I do to my life? And like, by no means was that any kind of like I wasn't regretful. I was just literally questioning like,
Exactly.
what is life right now? Like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
obviously, like we sure as hell know what we're doing. Like, we're
Yeah.
very aware that we created a human. We're very aware of what's coming, what's happening. But I guess it just doesn't hit you till you're there. You know?
No, and nothing can really prepare you for being a mom. It's just, it's impossible in part because nothing can prepare you for the hormonal changes that you go through when you're newly postpartum. And I think
Yeah.
that is just so underrated.
I
But
know. Postpartum
like
is
you
so
said,
real, but
oh yeah, no regret, but I was confused and unsure how to navigate and sad about the change and happy all at the same time. And it's so many new feelings that you have to grapple with. But maybe if we made all of those feelings a little bit more normalized and acceptable, then you wouldn't feel bad about not every single moment of motherhood being such a high. Because it's not. And that's okay.
yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Ooh, I mean, motherhood is a journey in itself, and that's something I guess like you're never prepared for, but yeah, you kind of learn as you go. I mean, plus you're a mom of two, so like for you, I'm not gonna say it's easier because it's not easier. It's just like probably different, right? And like you see a difference with like two kids and like how maybe your daughter was, right, versus your son. And I don't know. I think it's so interesting when I hear moms talk about their perspectives.
Absolutely. My kids are so different. And my experience with them as babies is so wildly different. And I wasn't prepared for that because I thought it was just going to be a repeat of
Mhm.
what it was like with my firstborn, having my second. And it just was not. Not at all.
So like day and night, like
Day
different.
and night experience. They're totally different babies. My son, I think now looking back, probably had colic and
Oh,
just didn't want to be put down. He was spitting up all the time. And I was just like, what am I doing wrong? I was devastated. I also had a really difficult birth with him. So I had trouble
Mm,
physically holding him because I was in bad physical shape from our birth experience.
I'm
So
sorry.
I just could not get a handle on the situation. He didn't want to nap. He didn't want to sleep. Anytime he got sick, he would need to be held all night. And my daughter is just like, no, you can put me in my crib now. Like, I'm ready. I joke that, like, when I get my kids from their crib in the morning, you can tell how different they are because my daughter is basically like happy, smiling face. Like, if she could talk, she would say, "Hi, mommy. I'm so happy to see you. When you have a second, can
Oh.
I have some milk?" And my son is like, "Lady, where have you been? Haven't you heard me screaming your name like full Miranda Priestley in Devil Wears Prada, but adorable?" And then with a big hugging kiss. So I'm like, whatever you want.
Oh my God. Oh, how cute are they? That is
They're
so
really
sweet.
sweet.
But hey, listen, you nailed it. I do believe that every kid can be different, whether it's like, my daughter versus your daughter or just like your own children. And I think that's something that is another thing that people need to talk about because I did not know that until I
Yeah.
like, I don't know, talked to other
No,
moms. I was just like, oh yeah, every baby's the same. What are you talking about? Every baby loves this, every baby loves that. No.
so different. And I remember this was something I had to caveat when I started giving product reviews, especially being like, hey, my baby hated this, your baby might love it. But if there's something super expensive, don't necessarily buy it because your baby might hate it. Like borrow it first or something. Even if it's got rave reviews online, that doesn't mean anything for your baby specifically. And
100%.
I just
Oh yeah.
remember on this note, when I went back to work the first time, I went into a partner's office and I just started sobbing because I had all this weekend work and I didn't know what to do. Like I said, my son
Mm.
didn't nap. And she was like, I asked her, when do you do weekend work? Did you get help on the weekend? Like, how do you manage this? She was like, oh, well, you work when the baby naps. And I was like, huh, that's cute. That's such a nice idea. And now I get it because my daughter naps, but that just wasn't a thing in my house. So I was like, that lack of understanding that disconnect there was kind of wild. But
No, but that's so real. And also too,
mhm,
one more thing that I noticed about the whole napping thing. It's a battle with me personally. When she's napping, do I, record a podcast with you, Leah, right now? Do I wash the dishes? Do I do
oh
the
yeah,
laundry? Should I go clean, her toys to disinfect some stuff? Should I go,
uh-huh.
I don't know, go to the bar and have a drink? Just kidding. But you know what I mean? It's like you have all these like
No,
things
sometimes
like
that's
that
what
need
you
to get
need.
done. I
That's
mean,
what you
that's
need.
true.
But
That's true.
then, do you ever experience then like the decision anxiety where you then just get decision paralysis and you can't do anything and you just lay in your bed and scroll, which is the
Yes.
worst because then you wake up and you get out of your bed and the baby starts crying to get picked up out of the crib and you're like, oh, I just wasted 2 hours of my time.
Nothing got done. I was bed rotting and
Yep.
scrolling through TikTok or
Yep.
whatever. But you know what? I used to feel guilty about that. I'm not gonna lie. And then I was like, no, this is like my downtime too. This is my break. I'm getting a break. This is
Yeah.
my smoke break, my 15-minute smoke break. Like,
For sure. For
you
sure. I
know.
just think moms have a hard time accepting that. One of my New Year's resolutions, you're going to think I'm nuts for this, but I actually think I'm going to start scheduling me time so that I don't feel guilty about it, so that I know when it's coming and then I don't feel bad like I'm supposed to be working or with the kids. It's like, no, 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 this is in the calendar as scheduled me time, whatever that may be.
If it's not in the calendar, it's not happening, is what I always say.
Right.
So that's brilliant. And honestly, like you said at the beginning of the podcast, like do what works for you and your family, do what works for you, like
For sure.
100%. If it means going in the calendar, because also like, I'm sure that's probably like what you're used to. That's what I'm used to. I look
Yeah.
at my calendar every morning. I'm like, okay, how's my day gonna go?
Hmm.
So if I put like I'm going to 7 p.m. yoga at the park district, or I'm gonna go, bed rot for 20 minutes while she's napping or whatever, like I'm gonna do it, and it's going in the calendar. So I love that.
That sounds great. I need to do more of
Yeah,
that.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about like your content when it comes to like, TikTok and all that. What was kind of
Hmm.
like the turning point for you when you realized that your content was resonated with so many other people, right? Particularly maybe moms. Like what was that turning point like?
I'm not exactly sure when it was, but I remember I would post certain videos and I would get comments or direct messages thanking me for putting the content out there. Like, this is the list I needed, or this is what I needed to hear today, whether it was, you know, the things that I wish someone told me before I was pregnant, or what I wish someone had told me about a miscarriage or a postpartum hemorrhage. And these things that were kind of taboo that not a lot of people were willing to talk about, that I felt needed to be talked about. And hearing that other people needed to hear it too was what kind of kept me going. And now I do like a little bit less serious content all the time. Some of it's mixed, right? But I think that was really the turning point where I was like, oh, I want to keep going with this, was when people started directly saying that this resonated and it helped them in one way. Even if it's just one person, that's worth it for me.
Oh, 100%. And I think as moms today too, like we're kind of lucky that we have, I call it resources, I don't know, content resources, but that we have each other in this way. Like if this was 1945, I probably wouldn't be able to connect with you as a mom and share our experiences together, have this podcast or your platform on TikTok. I wouldn't be able to like even know much about you. And I think it's really cool that we live in this era. Like I'm sure our parents, I mean, they had a village, they had maybe their own way, but we have like a whole new level of connecting as moms, and sharing stories, sharing resources, right? Even if it's just funny content, like my kid had a blowout today and this happened, like I love it because it's relatable.
100%. I couldn't agree more. When you were talking about the TJ Maxx story, I was thinking to myself about the time that my son fully had a blowout in the Bloomingdale's dressing room. And I was with one of my best friends and she didn't have kids yet. And she was just like, what is happening? Why is this? But it's so every other mom was like, yeah, been there. That's happened to me. But
yes.
Yeah, no, I think relatability and just the ability to share stories that were so suppressed, right? Women are so often told that we're not supposed to talk about these things. And for example, this was a really big thing. I remember with my miscarriage, I was told, you're not supposed to share you're pregnant until you're past the 12-week mark, or you shouldn't really be talking about it because it's upsetting to other women and it might scare them and all of these things. But then the more I started telling my story, the more I started hearing from other women who had had similar experiences. And the more of a cathartic release we all had collectively, expressing this kind of not universal, but more common trauma than people like to admit. I had never heard of, I had a chemical pregnancy, which is a really early miscarriage. I had never heard of that before. I think I was 28 and I'm an educated woman and I'm online and somehow, and I have a doctor, no one had ever told me that this was possible, that you could miscarry that, or I didn't know what it was. Why? And now there's this way to kind of share and warn and talk to people. And I see it in the comments of my videos about my miscarriage. People connect and say, hey, did you have this symptoms? How much longer did it take you to get pregnant after? And they find some hope and solace in each other, as well as in that knowledge that they're not alone. I think that's so much of it.
I couldn't agree more. I felt when I had my miscarriage too, I felt alone, and I didn't really want to even like talk about it, which is very unlike me because everyone knows everything about me. And one thing I always say is like I live my truth so no one can use it against me, right? There's a New York radio personality that says it all the time, and I love when he says that because I'm like same, you're never gonna like gotcha me. And I'm just I'm very just transparent, like whether I like to admit it or not, I just say what I need to say or like the truth, right? And I just for some reason I didn't talk about it, and that was so unlike me. And when I shared my experience online, which I did like a TikTok reel talking about like, statistics behind it, I guess, and like how it happened to me. And it was just flooded with comments of people being like, I've been there. My inbox, I still have messages that I haven't even gone through yet because there's so many. And I shared that like a year and a half ago. And it's just like so many, and people are just like, this happened to me and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like so common. And I'm so proud of us women, moms. I'm proud of us for sharing these stories because when, now if I hear, oh, somebody had a miscarriage or whatever, right? Someone's like sharing that information. To me, it just feels like, obviously, my heart goes out to them 100% because I've been there. But I also, I'm so proud of their vulnerability to share that because it is common. It's, to me, I think that's something that, like, I'm not saying we all have to like share our business out there. No, but understand you're not alone is my point.
Right. No, there are lines, of course, with that. I don't
You know,
share everything about my life. I agree with a lot of what you're saying in that I find it freeing and a lot less scary to live life when you don't have skeletons in your closet. But not
period.
everything is mine to share, you know? So that's part of
That's,
it. And some
that's
of it,
part,
you got
yep.
to draw some boundaries, especially when you have kids. You can't be going blasting every single thing. You can talk about a lot, but like, it's not everyone is entitled to everything. And that's okay too.
I wanted, yeah, 100%. I was going to ask you about that as well. How
Hmm.
do you navigate that with your kids? Because my daughter is 8 months old. I
Mm,
share her online. She's in my videos, like they're
yeah,
short, whatever. We have fun with her. Um, but eventually she'll be talking, eventually she'll be
mm,
way more mobile. Eventually she'll
right,
understand, like, we're posting. I mean, I don't know how much she'll understand, but like we're posting a video and it's online. Obviously, you're a mother. I'm a mother.
right.
We know that the world can be a very scary place. So how do
Yeah.
you navigate that as a content creator?
So it's a little mixed. And truthfully, I go back and forth on this to some degree. There are
I
days where I
understand.
get nervous. I remember I had like a morning routine video that included like a walk in Central Park, and somebody wrote some scary comment about like, oh, you shouldn't post your routine about walking in Central Park. And granted, I usually don't post like exactly the next day, and it's hard to navigate. I do get nervous. My husband and I made a decision early on that we were going to be okay with having our children online to some degree because my mother-in-law is a public figure and her family photos of us are online blasted to over 1 million people. And we decided that that was going to be okay so long as we were able to kind of have some control over which photos go out. There's nothing of our kids in a diaper, nothing that could be turned into anything suggestive. That's a hard boundary for me. The other real boundary I have that I highly recommend for any content creator is don't do anything for content. Your life as it is should be content. You should not well, I'm not going to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't be doing, but for me, the hard line is I don't make my kids do anything so that I can put them in front of a camera. That's not happening. And I don't go and do things that my family and I wouldn't normally do just so I could film it. That's not a thing for us. And I think that makes it
Love
more
that. I
organic and
agree.
relatable. It's like a some things in my life, no, not everyone is doing all the time, but a lot of it is just our day to day going to the park. I take my kids to a museum, I take them to school, a class, I work, that kind of thing. That's all very normal, family dinners. But I think the second that I started demanding that my kids pose or dance or do whatever so that I could film it, that's a hard
Yeah.
no for me. And my son actually really enjoys being in front of the camera, which is funny because he'll sometimes mess up my shot because he'll jump in the middle when I'm trying to record something, and that's hysterical. But
Oh,
he's cute. Again, as long as it's nothing. I like to also mainly have images of them with an adult in it for safety purposes, but sometimes I have them as a solo shot. It just depends.
100%. I agree with everything that you said. I think that there are boundaries and stuff, right? That you
Yeah.
should even have, like, for yourself, for your family, right? At the end of
Mm,
the day, like, our job, our number one job is to protect our children. That's
yeah.
period. That's it. So, but at the same time, too, like, yeah, when you create, a platform or you have a platform like that and you want to share with other moms, like, I see nothing wrong with that. Like, I think my daughter and I will have a great time doing that, as she
Yeah.
grows and stuff. And I love, I love her and I love showing her to the world and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
I do think about that sometimes and I'm just like, also, my husband's a former police officer, and his whole family's
Mm,
police officers. And he's a fireman.
yeah.
So I marrying him, I've seen like a whole different like world. Like I was
Right.
never like Miss like Delulu girl. Like I wasn't like naive. Like I knew
Right.
the world for what it is. I'm from Chicago. I'm like I grew up
Yeah.
everywhere, whatever. But I'm like, huh? And now I'm a parent and stuff, and now I like
Yeah, it's
hear their
terrifying.
stories. It's crazy. And honestly, too,
Terrifying.
I'm sure you agree. Becoming a parent has opened a new anxiety door
Oh,
level that I've never had in my life.
for sure. For sure. Everything is scary and wonderful at the same time. But I'm constantly terrified. The things that keep me up at night are wild. Or if I have a bad dream, I can't sleep for hours if it has something to do with my kids. And then I'll wake up the next day and I'm super paranoid about all of this other stuff that hadn't even crossed my mind the day before. But I think that's just
Yeah.
loving something as much as you love your children. And it's just part of
Yeah.
it. I feel terrible for my parents now because I realize maybe all the ways that I did not behave are wildly unfair, and I hope my kids are better than I am. But
Oh my God. But like I get that. Like that's so same. Oh my God. I tell my mom
right,
all the time, I'm like, Mom, I'm so sorry.
all the time, all the time. My mom will laugh when my son does something like absolutely bonkers and like jump off like the top of something at a playground or whatever. He's got no fear. And I was similar. And now I'm just why couldn't I exercise some caution? And then don't even get me started on my teenage years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm terrified for that. I have a
I'm
daughter, and
not
everyone says,
ready.
"Oh, you're." Yeah, same. No, same. Everyone's like, My mom was always say, "I hope you have a girl one day, and she's just like you." And
You get
you
what
know
you
what?
give.
Like, yeah,
That's what my mom always
yeah, a
says. You
little
get what you
bit.
give.
Oh, I'm like, please, but no, I think she'll be good. She'll be good. I hope that she's like me in the way where, I prioritize a lot of cool stuff. I was always very involved in school. I was and
Hmm.
having my little, extracurricular whatever it's called, extracurricular activities and all that good
Yep.
stuff. But I really hope she stays her ass in the house because I loved going outside. I always want to be out with my friends and get my license
Hmm.
and just be everywhere. So I hope she's a homebody. I hope she just chooses that life.
You're going to have to let me know how that goes. I'm hoping for
I
the
will.
same, but
Same, same. So obviously, I feel like humor, because you and I'm talking to you a lot more now too. I'm realizing we share so many similarities and stuff. And like, I'm not gonna say I laugh my way through motherhood because it's like, there's days where I laugh and I cry at the same time. But I think you use a lot of humor when it comes to your content, and I love that about you.
thank
So
you.
what do you think, like, as far as like, how do you weave humor into the ups and downs of motherhood?
Authentically. Like, there's just no other way to do it. There are some moments that are genuinely just sad and hard, and you need to show it that way. And other moments where you're like, this is unfortunate. For example, said poop explosion in Bloomingdale's, but like,
Yeah.
it's it's pretty funny. Like, it's more funny than it is sad. And the truth is that if you don't make light of some of it, it can be kind of unbearable at certain moments. You have to be able to recognize the humor and also the humor and everything going on around you. Like how your family, the rest of your family, is reacting to your relationship with your kids. And when it comes to content creation, if you're not being honest about when it's like funny or sad, the audience picks it up. They're not dumb, they're smart. So I just try to say how I'm feeling, and it doesn't resonate with everyone, and that's okay. But for a lot of people, it often does. Just depends.
Couldn't agree more. And what about like, I want to say like the downside of social media, right? Which can be criticism or
Yeah.
judgment or whatever you want to call it. I call it the haters or, because
Hmm.
man, like I used to always say though, there was one time I was like a phase because I do radio in Chicago. So when I
Hmm.
wasn't getting like any like negative feedback or just like whatever, some fake little bot saying something, I was like, damn, did I fall off? Like all of a sudden nobody hates me. And I was just because
Uh-huh.
like I speak my mind on the radio, So I was
Yeah.
like, all of a sudden no one's saying things. So I always say like, like not that haters are my biggest motivators because I'm like, no, you guys are not. But I think at the same time, like I can't help but sometimes like fall into that, right? Or like
Right.
see a negative comment and I'm like, ooh, I can get 100 positive comments, but it's like that one negative comment. And it
Yeah.
throws my day off, and I'm like so upset. So my question for you is, how do you deal with criticism or judgment, or any negativity that comes up when you share your life so publicly?
I spiral sometimes. I would be totally lying if I said anything else. Like, it is hard to watch people rip you apart and say such mean things for just showing your life and who you are and what you're doing, whether that's the fact that I have childcare or that I use a certain type of formula. Oh my goodness, I got ripped to pieces for that. Or people people have all sorts of stuff to say. What I try to remember is similar to what you were saying about haters being your motivators. They don't motivate me, but one thing I did hear once that I really liked because it helped flip my perspective was if you don't have haters and you don't have criticism, then you're doing something wrong, which I think is probably true.
Hmm.
And I think
I
that's,
agree.
somewhere along the lines of all press is good press, which I don't always believe. But I think that kind of captures the happy medium there of you need to be having thoughts and opinions that not everyone is going to agree with, because if you're just walking the safe line all the time, there's nothing interesting. You can't be loved by everyone. It's just how it is. And you can't be true to yourself if you're loved by everyone. There's no way that's possible. There's
I had
just
to
no
learn that
way.
the hard way. Yeah.
I do try sometimes not to say things that would be like wildly controversial, that would be
Right.
like hurtful in some ways, but I don't think I genuinely feel any way that would be hurtful to a population of people. So it kind of that comes naturally, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%. When you're saying you get criticism, right, which a
Mhm.
lot of mothers do, whether they have a platform or not, they
Mhm.
do. When you're mentioning the formula you're using or childcare, if I can ask, were these comments or criticism, did it come from mothers, fathers, both?
Um, my understanding is that it's mainly from women. I
Women?
don't know that it's mothers necessarily. Also,
Okay.
like all these people are anonymous, right? With anonymous hashtags or sorry, anonymous handles, and you don't know who they actually are. I could go on a spree and start like FBIing their ass and like go and look at their TikTok page and see if it links to an Instagram and like
Right.
I could, but no thanks. Why bother? You're not worth my time. If you're taking
No.
time out of your day to shit on me in my comments, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. And I'm not
Mm.
going to make it a me problem. That sounds wholly unnecessary. Never in my life have I gone online and decided that it was going to be a good idea to type something mean and hurtful out to someone in the comments. Never. For what reason? And I
I
think
agree.
that this is like part of the issue that women have, why we haven't moved forward as much as maybe we could have, is because we're all knocking each other down a lot of the time. I think there's more girl power these days and some more let's help each other, let's band together, let's share our experiences, let's all help each other out, which I love. But there's sometimes not enough of it. And it's those comments where I'm like, why did you take time out of your day to say something mean to me? Why? And I read every comment. I wish I was one
Yeah.
of those people and people around me say one day I'll get there where I just don't read all the comments. But it's important to me to interact with my community. So I respond to almost everything as long as I see it. Sometimes I miss them. But
Yeah. No, 100%. And I couldn't agree more with you. I have never once in my life ever thought that I wanted, even if I didn't agree with like something like that maybe someone posted or
mhm,
said, I've never once in my life had the energy, time, or just want to like go do that. And not
mhm.
saying that, I or you are so much better than people. No, I don't think that at all. I just, again,
No.
don't have that in my heart. It's just not in my spirit. And what I think really bothers and pisses me off is that motherhood's already really hard. And I don't understand the attack, right? Of oh, so and so has childcare, so and so has this whatever cleaning service or this formula. Like it literally can go down to anything, the food or whatever, right? You're
Mhm.
feeding your kid, the diapers you're using. Like to me, that is insanely
Yeah.
wild that anyone would even comment on that. And I won't even comment this, but the only time I'd ever be genuinely concerned about a child's well-being is when you can see that the child is not well, and that I mean that we're talking like
Right.
a whole different level here. We're not even talking
Right.
about like your kid's diapers, what brand they're wearing. That's nothing at all what I'm talking about, and it really just triggers and bothers the crap out of me because again, this is so hard already. So I don't understand like what you bringing me down or saying something
Right.
this or that, and also too, I'm not gonna lie, I think social media can sometimes the whole comparison trap thing can really bring us mothers down, right? Like even the
Yeah.
brand of the car seat that you're using, like to me, I don't know like where this came from. This, I don't know if it's like an elite like status thing, or if it's just I'm better than you, or I'm one upping you, or I don't know what the hell this is. But I encourage moms to stay the hell away from that and to stop comparing your journey to someone else's. You know what I mean? I always say, like, I scream, I'm gonna get this like tattooed, I swear to God, on my shoulder or something. But
Yeah.
I just want people to do what works for their family. And to me,
Yes, that.
that's all I'm asking and begging you, because you know,
Yeah.
for you at the beginning of the podcast, we mentioned, you know, it was important for you to keep your career, right? And you're like, you know, I'll admit it, it was my ego. I love what I do. I do radio and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little ego with that. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not gonna lie too. Working and doing what I do, doing this podcast, all the stuff that I've created, that keeps me sane and happy, because my daughter is getting the best version of me that I can ever give her. And I'm telling you that right now.
Definitely. And I
You
think you're
know?
so spot on when you say that you have to do what's best for your family. And the same way every baby is different, every family is different. And
Ooh.
every mom needs different things. I remember, I actually deleted my social media when I was trying to get pregnant with my first baby because I was nervous about comparing myself to other moms doing pregnancy one way. What if I couldn't get pregnant and I was going to see pregnancy announcements and then I was going to get sad? That is part of the downside of social media. There's so much comparison, and I think it's so true when they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I have definitely had my moments when I have spiraled, and I think that that's one of the problems with being a content creator is, my ego was tied to my Big Law job, but it's also definitely sometimes tied to how many views did I get, or if I did work really hard on a piece of content and it totally tanked, that will put me in a bad mood. And it's hard. And seeing these
That's real.
comments that are mean, it will send me sometimes. And it's terrible. But you have to kind of remember that as long as you're doing what's actually good for you and your family, then the rest of it is just noise. And that can be hard to remember, but it's true. But
It's so
I always
true.
try to bring myself back to my kids are healthy, they're happy, I'm healthy, I'm happy, so is my husband, so is my dog.
Yes.
Life is good. So,
Oh, I love it. I know, you're right. It's hard. And I love that you admitted that, because it is difficult sometimes. This can be very difficult, especially when you share your life online or on a
yeah.
platform or whatever it might be. So that is very real. Before we wrap up, though, I definitely would love to know what advice would you give to like maybe like other moms who are looking to create, you know, content or share their stories online as well. You know, a new mom or just a mom of multiple kids. You know, what kind of advice would you give them?
Two things. One, talk about the things that are genuinely on your mind. The content that does the best that I do are things where I'm like genuinely fired up about, whether that's like what boundaries I set around my newborn when I have friends and family over, that kind of thing, or what products are way too expensive but not worth your money versus ones that are totally worth your money. These are things that like I get worked up about that I share online. If you're just trying to create content, it doesn't always hit. It has to be something that you think a lot, that you really feel passionately about, that you think other moms would benefit from. Try and be helpful. Come at it with a really genuine why. And that's the other thing that I always have to remember. I have to remind myself why I'm doing this. And it's because my hope is that through at least some of my content, I'm helping someone. That's my why. And I think it's important to have that. The other thing I would recommend that I am really working on is to set boundaries with your phone around your family.
Mm,
When you are a
that's a
content
good one.
creator, your phone is such an integral part of your life and it's your work. And not in the way that it was my work when I was a lawyer checking emails all the time. I am editing, filming, all this stuff on my phone. And that means it's sometimes taking away from my kids and my husband, which I don't love. So I am working on compartmentalizing that a bit better. And that is a recommendation I have for people. Otherwise, just try to have fun with it. This is all meant to be fun, right?
I mean, I would love to say yeah, because it is. Like, not only are you like being vulnerable and sharing your story online and,
Yes.
and your journey, at the end of the day, it's meant to just be fun, an outlet, right? Creative place to
Yes.
go,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. have fun
Yeah.
with it.
That's how TikTok started for me. It was an outlet. I really needed a place where I could share what I was feeling about motherhood
Yeah.
somewhat anonymously. Now that my TikTok has gotten bigger, it's not so anonymous anymore, but it was when I first started, and none of my friends knew that
Totally.
I was doing this. And it was really a cathartic release for me, with the benefit of it also being helpful and cathartic for others to see what I had to say and feel like they could relate to it. So I think that's important. Make sure it's serving you and not all the other way around. You want to be helping others, but you also want to make sure it's fitting into your life.
Yes, I completely agree. So my last question for you,
Yeah.
is there anything that maybe you'd like to kind of just, say to your followers or your community that have supported you along the way? Like, what's one thing you would tell them, including myself? Because I love your content.
Thank you. Um, Thank you. Truly. Like, thank you. I'm so grateful all the time. I'm so grateful this opportunity to be able to have this second part of my life that I never dreamed of. Had you told me that I would have a TikTok account with X amount of followers a year and a half, 2 years ago, I would have been like, I don't even know how to use TikTok. What are you saying right now? So I'm so grateful to the community I've built, the people that have kind of stuck by. I was terrified when I told people that I was leaving my big law job. I was really worried about getting backlash. And for the most part, I got such an outpouring of support, and it just made the decision to share it online feel so much better because I was really scared. And
Yeah.
I felt that way with so many things that I was scared to talk about openly, and just have received such a warm reception of, and I'm just overwhelmingly grateful. So thank you, and I hope you'll continue with me. I'm like starting to explore other platforms. My Substack has been such a huge part of my life the last couple of weeks. I'm really building that out, talking about all things motherhood, and getting to write more is everything to me. So
I
I'm
saw
just
that. Yeah, you had a new article come out, didn't you?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That is
So
exciting.
I talked about how I could never be a stay-at-home mom after going on a family vacation, and why having it all is absolute bullshit. So more of that coming.
I love it. We're really starting off the year strong, going in,
Oh yeah.
and again, relatable to me. So I'm gonna have to go read the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I feel
Yes.
like now New Year is no breaks for me. So all the things that I've been kind of holding back, time to blast it out. So that's what
I love it.
we're doing.
Love it. So where can we follow you on all platforms that you're currently on that we can and do any of the or follow any of your articles as well that you'll be sharing in 2025?
Yeah. So my TikTok is at one lit mama with an underscore at the end. And so is my Instagram handle, which I am trying to build out, guys. Bear with me. There will be some exclusive content going up on my Instagram, more product lists and that kind of thing with links. So hopefully that's really helpful for everyone. And then my Substack is called Mom Talk by Leah Michelle Higgins. So I hope you'll go subscribe and read that, because that is where you will be getting some of my most unfiltered content.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Leah, for being here with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you
For
for
being part of the
having
Mommy
me.
Collective. Of course. And I love your authenticity. Like everything that you said, I resonated with so hard. And I hope those listening, get inspired, right? If they are looking to create content in 2025, they go for it. They're not afraid. And
Yes.
they are authentic,
You know what? That's my other piece of advice that I really wish I had said. Build now, apologize later. Just get started. You just got to keep going. You just got to start. It's so hard to get over the cringe factor, the fear factor. If you want to do this and you feel like you have a calling to do it, do it. The only people who are going to be making fun of you, and I see this with other bigger content creators, they say this all the time. The only people making fun of you are the people who are too scared to do it themselves. Do what you
Yes.
got to do. Like, put your shit out there for sure.
I love it. Thank you. You're amazing.
Yeah,
I appreciate your time so much. And we'll definitely be talking to you soon.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me hit stop, which I never know where the stop button is because that would be really helpful if I freaking could find it. Because it tells me we're recording, but like I think if
I
I hit
know.
leave, I think it'll if I hit leave, it'll exit us, which is fine because it all goes to the cloud. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna pretty much edit this and post it next Monday, so in a couple of days, if that's fine with you.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. And then I do use Riverside. Obviously, we're on it right now. It's amazing. It pulls clips for me for
Mhm.
Instagram and TikTok and all that. So
Okay, great.
like our combo is like they pull like the I can also manually pull them, but like they pull the best ones.
Perfect.
It's the best $28 I ever spend a month because I don't have time to pull
Amazing. I
clips.
love that.
You know,
Yeah.
same. Awesome. Well, thank you. Then I'll definitely
Thank you
talk to you
for
soon.
having
I'll
me.
I'll send you the link. Of
That
course.
would
Have
be
a good
great. I
one.
hope that was what you were hoping
It was
for, but I really
way
appreciate
better.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
great.
way better than I imagined because I sometimes you don't know, right? Like, what are you willing to
Mhm.
share, talk about, and obviously motherhood can be touchy, depending what we talk about. And
Yeah.
I loved you, and I resonate with
Thank
you a
you.
lot because
Thank you.
I honestly I can't be a stay at home mom either. Like, I can't.
As long as you're
It's just
honest
the
with
hardest
me,
job,
man. Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. Hardest and often the
like
most thankless. So I hear
period.
you.
And I know my mental health, the way that I'm set up, it would be hard.
So hard.
So I get
Anyways,
you.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.